Just walk away. Just walk away. And there will be an end to the horror.
I learned this from my dog. I had a dog for a long time, and I knew him pretty much all my life, or all his life. He lived about 10 years. Give or take a few months, he lived about 10 years, but I met him when he was not even a year old, so I knew him almost his whole life. And he taught me how to communicate, because he couldn't understand any word I said. He just looked at how I behaved, listened to the tone of my voice, watched my body expressions and facial movements and hand movements, and he understood everything I said. And that's how he communicated to me. The same way, he just used body gestures, and I can almost say it, a telekinesis. A language was understood without the need for the spoken word. Now, as human beings, we can see that happen all the time when we communicate with animals. That's how we communicate with them. We don't communicate with them through spoken word. There's always every other nuance, tone, gesture, stance, eye contact, whatever it may be. There is no spoken word. So I sometimes wonder, the biblical concept of Babylon and the idea, the global religious idea of a breakup of man due to a failure of communication. And on top of that, in the Quran, when it does mention that the mountains and the seas refused free will, but humans accepted it foolishly. Don't quote me on that. You have to check it again. Something like that. It means to me that human beings were either the luckiest or stupidest beings alive to accept the contract of taking the next step from being an animal. There's only one difference between us and the animals. There's only really one. And we'll always find similarities in so much of our behavior, but there's only really one difference, man. And that is language. Written and spoken language. The animals don't have it, and they never will. And even if they did, we would never understand it to see it in the first place. So we need to understand that that's the only thing that separates us. And for all of you people who have a difficulty with levels or something being higher than another without being better, please understand that if it is true, humans did accept human language. Humans did accept spoken language where animals did not. And who's better off? Maybe the animals. Because they tend not to have the same responsibility we do. There's not a lot of confusion going on in the animal kingdoms. Everybody knows which place they stay at. They know which side of the food chain they're on. They know who to communicate with and who not to. Basic instincts. Minus one thing. Spoken, written language. I learned from my dog that he could speak to me and I could speak to him, and we could both understand each other without speaking a word. And even though I know I can speak words and he cannot, the feelings he gave me made me think that there's more to communication than just some audio or visual experience. I think there's more to it. I think a combination of the two make for some kind of telecommunication, reading of the minds. I think it's possible. Because I think we do it all the time with animals. We just don't want to admit it. Because we always think of animals as being, animals, lower than us. Well, it doesn't mean we're the same, or that even if we are not lower, it does not mean we're better. But of course, there'll be some assholes out there that will think with a completely restricted mind that if I say something is lower, it means it's worse. But that's humans and their language. So when I learned this from my dog, well, this was the time that he was about to die. And he spoke to me clearly, in his eyes, in his face, in his breathing, in the way he sat, in the way he presented himself, and in the way that we communicated or spent our time together for the last few weeks before I left Canada. He spoke to me and he told me, I'm going to die. And I knew it. I knew it. It was almost like I heard the words in my ears, but that was me just, anthropomorphizing the concept. I didn't really hear it, but a human might use those words to describe how he experienced it. I didn't really hear it. We have no words for it. I just felt that he was going to die. He said that to me very clearly. He looked me in the eyes several times and said, I'm going to die. I'm not going to see you again. And I didn't cry, and I didn't even give him the extra attention. I did whatever we normally did. And when I left, not even 3 months passed by, and he had passed away. He had suddenly succumbed to cancer, and my brother, Paul, had to take him to the hospital and watch him die, put him to sleep. And then the news came, and I thought to myself, how strange. No language, no words spoken. But I already knew it was going to happen, and so did he. And he could tell me. I watched him live the most productive last moments of his life. He swam, ran, bit, and chewed till there was nothing left of him, even though he was dying. I've never seen that before. Well, maybe not just in another animal, but I think it's rare to see another human being. I'm sure it happens, but me personally, it's so hard to see that another human being. Maybe because we don't even know when our end is coming. And maybe one of the sacrifices for language, the spoken written word, is not knowing when you're going to die.